Again, welcome. Nice to see everybody online as well. Good, good thoughts to my buddy John out there. And we're going to start the service like we always do with a song called "This Is the Day." And if you'd please rise and join in the song with us to bring up the spirit for Reverend Sue. Reverend Sue's in the house. So, you ready?
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that received it. A day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and higher up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Can feel the Spirit working its way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and higher up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
Good morning. Welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Clyde Goins, the assistant minister here, and you can tell that Reverend Karen is off today. She had a party last night. She partied a little bit too hard. I'm telling you, that gourmet for God gets kind of crazy out there sometimes. You go to him. So I heard a lot of great stuff about that party last night, the event, and I know that Reverend Karen is just overjoyed with happiness with everybody that came and participated. So it was really wonderful. All right, so we have a couple announcements, and I'm going to let Kay. I almost did it. I'm going to let Kay give the announcements because both of these are near and dear to her heart.
Thank you. Good morning. So the first thing I want to talk about is next Saturday is our West Valley Wellness Expo. And if you haven't been to one, you need to be there because we have such a variety of different practitioners doing Reiki and meditation and different things. So I will actually be doing a vibration healing for people. So I hope you can join us, and that's from 10 to 5 here. And then the next thing is the class, The Mystical Path, and that starts on March 13th, which is a Thursday, from 6:30 to 8:30. And I'm really excited about this one because the class is designed to allow students to explore their own beliefs about mysticism and experience the intention to discover their own mystical path. So, and the book that we're using is The Mystic Heart by Wayne Teasdale. So I hope you will join me for that as well. So thank you. There you are.
Thank you, Kay. So as you can see, we are continuing to offer many opportunities to get rooted in our spiritual principles and practices. So hopefully everybody is attending all of these wonderful events. I know they had a great event for the women's retreat, and so the wellness retreat this weekend or workshop this weekend is going to be expo. It's going to be fabulous, and Kay's class is going to be fabulous. So again, we are really anchoring ourselves in that spiritual truth. Oh, yes, one more announcement. I forgot about this one. This is another way we can anchor ourselves in spiritual truth.
So just real quick, guys, I'm going to have a gardening class next week after we do Dining with the Dudes, and create a beautiful garden that enriches your mind, body, and soul. And everyone's going to have their own little greenhouse to take home with them. And we can do herbs, flowers, vegetables. You have like 12 plants you're going to bring home with you. So join me.
And it's right after service tomorrow. Next Sunday, right after service next Sunday. Yeah, after we eat, of course. All right, so we have a lot of wonderful things going on. So please, if you're not signed up for our newsletter, if you can sign up, fill out one of the forms. Yes. Thank you, Diane. Now you made me lose my train of thought, Diane. Thrift store. Okay. Shop. Anyways, so let's just move right into our vision statement. Why don't we? Oh, I know what I was going to say, that if you are not receiving the newsletter, please sign up for the newsletter so that way you are informed of all the wonderful things we have going on, or you can go to our website, WBCSL. We have a calendar out there that posts all of our information as well. So please join us with that as well. So, all right, so now let's say our vision statement together. We are a loving, joy-filled community honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the science of mind principles. And so it is. So just sit back, relax, open up your hearts and mind for the Bradford's beautiful music and Reverend Sue's wonderful message. Thank you.
So just take a deep breath and relax as we move within.
I will make a quiet place within my heart. I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, no.
I will make a quiet place within my mind. I will wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know
I will make a quiet place within my life,
and
I will wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
That quiet place, that place where God resides within us. That God that is that expression of wholeness, of peace, of joy and love, and all that is good in this universe. It is all God expressing as individuals, as people, animals, plants, things, the sky, the sun, the clouds, the stars, the moon, the planets, and all that is entailed in this divine universe. It is all God. God expressing within us as God lives in, through, and as us right here, right now. And what I know of God, I know of each one of us in this room and all those watching online, all those that are in service today, and all of those who cannot be with us today, as we are all the divine expressions of God. And I know this to be true, and I know that as the Bradfords play their beautiful music, they are in divine harmony, that their music touches our hearts and souls. Bless you. And I know that each person in service today is in the perfect place, the perfect time. And a special blessing for Reverend Sue, knowing that her message comes from the words of God, expressing through her and touching each one of us and expressing that divine love, and knowing that each one of us receives the message that we are here to receive. And I'm so grateful for this truth. I'm so grateful for this day. And with gratitude, I release my words into the action of universal law, knowing that it is already done. It is so. And together we say, and so it is. My reading today is from Practice the Present by Edward Vion and Chris Michaels. And this is a daily reading, but I found this one that I'd like to read today. It's called Choosing Happiness. And there's a quote by Henry David Thoreau on this day. It says, "There is no value in life except what you choose to place upon it, and no happiness in any place except what you bring it to yourself." Choosing happiness is a choice you must make every day. It is not merely the effect of a positive experience. Many people who have struggled with hardship and fought to stay alive still remain happy, regardless of the negative circumstances which affect them. The challenges before you do not have to steal your joy. There are many things that can be taken from you in human life, but no one can steal your happiness unless you choose to let them. Choose happiness today. So take a moment to contemplate those words. And so it is.
So
The song today is called Let Love Lead the Way, and we'll have the words up here for you, written by Karen Drucker. When my world is not okay, when there's roadblocks in my way, when I feel so all alone, these words will bring me home. Sing it with me. Let love lead the way. Let love lead the way. Oh, oh, oh. Let love lead the way. Just let love lead the way. When we can't see eye to eye, no matter how we try, we can find our harmony if we only choose to be. Let love lead the way.
Going along.
Let love lead the way. Oh, oh, oh. Let love lead the way. Yes, let love lead the way. In everything, love will be the gift I bring to give and to receive, straight from the heart. Let love lead the way. Let love lead the way. Oh, oh, oh. Let love lead the way. Yes, let love lead the way. Let love lead the way. Let love lead the way.
Hello! I watched Mrs. Doubtfire recently. Hello! So it's very hard for me not to hear that when someone even says any kind of hello. Hello! You know, one of my favorite books is called Ask Yourself This by Wendy Craig Purcell. And if you're a journaler, it's a great book. But one of the questions that she asks is, how safe would it be for others to walk the corridors of your mind? In my case, it could be a lot of fun, or you need a flak jacket and an armored vehicle, and everywhere in between. But I digress. So Reverend Karen's party was a great, fun evening last night, and so I have the good fortune to be able to be with you here today in her absence. And my talk title today is called The Power of Choice. And if you're around me much, you know that one of the things that I talk about over and over and over is I believe one of the most important principles we teach is about choice. It's about the fact that no matter what's happening in our life, that there is always an opportunity for a reset because we make new choices. And I remember in one of my first Science of Mind classes, they talked about how do you know what you're choosing in life? Well, look at what's showing up. If you want something different, you need a different set of choices. And so a part of what I'm going to talk about is how we can step aside from our judgment about some of our choices, because it's not always easy to be kind to yourself. I'll put the period there. I was going to say related to choices, but sometimes it's just difficult to be kind to yourself. And so that's a big chunk of what I'm going to talk about today. So You know, the Centers for Spiritual Living has themes, and I'm particularly fond of this month. The flow of coming and going. And if I were following their outlines, the talk title would be Navigating the Tides of Life. And I have a minister friend who always used to say, everyone love it when flow comes to visit, right? It's just fabulous. But that nasty woman brings ebb with her every single time. And so life really is about a lot of ebb and flows. One of the things that they did this time that made me kind of chuckle is there's a whole list of holiday observances. So I went, yeah, there's way more than that. And I looked, and I have 5 pages between now and the end of next month. But the big ones, this is Women's History Month, and on the 8th is International Women's Day. That had to do with the first time women as workers came together and said, we ought to be treated a little better than we are. And then the big one really is Ash Wednesday. Well, actually, the big one is Fat Tuesday, the day before, where if you're in New Orleans, it is a rowdy party. It is an unbelievably rowdy party, actually. But Ash Wednesday is the start of Lent, and Lent is a season from a fundamental religion perspective, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. But from our perspective, it would be reflection, service, and prayer. And so spending time, you know, I know that I was raised in a neighborhood where most of the kids went to the Catholic school. I went a million miles away to a Lutheran school. But the Catholic school kids always had to give something up for Lent. And they would argue with their parents over what it was because they wanted to only have to give up something they didn't want anyway. It's like, can I give up peas? No, you can't give up peas. How about broccoli? Can I give up that? No. I don't know why. I used to look at them and just thought, that's the weirdest religion. But I won't go down that road. But anyway, it's 40 days where you spend time really being contemplative, and there's a lot of the religions. If you go through the massive list of religious holidays for all the faiths, they frequently, like Ramadan, started last week, and it's a month-long celebration, and it too involves fasting. And so a lot of them involve fasting, and well, why is that? Because it's about just taking a break, to me. And whether it's taking a break from food or negative thinking, a lot of times in New Thought we talk about fasting from negative thoughts. So it's an interesting time right now as we take the run up to the Easter holidays. St. Patty's Day, have a good party. The 20th is International Day of Happiness. So I loved your reading. It goes very well with today's talk, but we got the International Day of Happiness coming, and then there's always the spring or vernal equinox, which is, in one of the definitions that I read, you know, there's obvious celebration of new life, new beginnings, return to balance, but it said, perhaps now more than ever, the human race is upgrading and shedding the old. It's our natural inclination to resist change, but it is through change that real growth occurs. So there's a lot going on, and I think that when you look at it, the ability to see how change impacts so many things. But spring is really a time of huge change, especially if you're from the northern part of any part of the world, actually, because it's cold and snowy and dark and things that I try to avoid. But anyway, so my theme quote for today is from a book of Ernest Holmes called Practical Application of Science of Mind. The power of choice with which we have been endowed is either our greatest blessing or our greatest curse. And I thought, yeah, that's probably true. Properly understood, it can lift us to the heights. Misunderstood, it can drag us to the depths. We are free to choose anything we wish, but we must accept responsibility for our choices. Now, I don't know about you, but there are times when I could be like a 2-year-old and not think that that's a really good idea. But it is the truth. And it says, because the inexorable law, and I had to go back, Ruby Calvert, my English teacher, would be appalled, but I did have to look it up, impossible to stop or prevent. So because the inexorable law will create our experiences according to our choices. So I love the dictionary. Choose is to select freely after consideration. To select freely after consideration. To have a preference to choose this or that. And then the last one is decide. To choose is to decide. And for years, I had a teacher who said the two most powerful words in the English language are I decide. I decide. Even if I take whatever it is you believe or think or want, I still decide to choose that. I decide, not anybody else. So it's an interesting process. I know that it's very easy to want to put it on someone else, but there still is always to remember it's my choice. It is always my choice, what I choose to believe or not, how I choose to respond or not. Even if we have circumstances in our life that we don't have a vote about. For example, my husband's health is continuing to disintegrate. I don't have a vote on that. It is not my body, it is not my consciousness, it is not my anything other than to love him right there. And how I respond to that is completely my choice. So I always get a little frustrated with some metaphysicians who will say, you know, it's like whatever is happening in your life is completely your choice. Well, it's my choice to be in love with my husband and stay with him. But what happens down this path is ours to deal with as it comes. So I go to Lake Havasu once a month to do the church service, and this month they're studying a book called Enough Already, The Power of Radical Contentment by Alan Cohen. And there's a chapter called Happy to Ride in Coach. And now I'm a fussy traveler. I will tell you that right up front. I am a fussy traveler. I just am. We'll just leave it at that. And so in this book, a fussy traveler is recounting a story about how there's a woman in a bulkhead seat. And if you're familiar with planes, that's a place with more leg room and a little more arm room. Sometimes there's 2 seats instead of 3. It's a great spot. And she's sitting there, and a couple come, and they're newlyweds. And the husband sits down, and the wife gets sent back like 3 rows. And they're just devastated. They're on their way to Hawaii for their honeymoon. And so the husband says, is there anybody who'd be willing to just give us, to make any changes so we could have 2 seats together? And the woman sitting next to him says, I will. I'll give you my seat. So she went back to like some middle aisle, middle seat, 4 or 5 rows back. And a man sitting next to her said, I don't understand why you would have done that. And she said, I was a newlywed once. And you know, who can deny them that kind of happiness? They're on their way to Hawaii for their honeymoon. Besides, I'm on my way to Hawaii. I'd be happy even if I was riding in the luggage compartment. And so the fussy traveler went back and said to himself, wow, I can't really say that because I'm a fussy traveler and I'm really insistent on which seat I get. And he realizes, he said, that he could see how much of his happiness he let an external choice make. So about that then, he says, let's see. Happy people do not demand a lot from the world because their happiness proceeds from a place deeper than the world can touch. They regard life as a gift and celebrate what comes to them. Such simple pleasures do not result in letting something outside of you control you. And he says there are 2 ways to ride in first class. One is at the front of the plane, and the other is at the bottom of your heart. Now, I will tell you that I, being a fussy traveler, know that physically there's a great big difference between what you sit in when you sit in first class and when you sit in the middle seat. But it is my choice as to how I respond to either one of those. And it's my choice to say, I get to decide. Again, we go to that whole I decide thing. I get to decide if I'm willing to spend the extra bucks or the extra miles, if you're like me and you're a miles traveler, to get a bump up to first class. That's my choice. And it's based on my values. So for me, unless it's an overseas flight, I rarely, if I'm going 2 hours, just suck it up. And it's my age group. Just suck it up. It's kind of what we tell ourselves, right? Goes with the territory if you're my age. But it's still about the fact that the happiness that woman had was absolutely her choice. And I can make my choices based on my priorities, and my priorities are driven by my values. But it's still important for me to be able to be aware, right? To say, if I'm flying across a big body of water, like I might be if I were going to Hawaii, yeah, for me personally, I would say it's worth the mileage upgrade. But for some people, they wouldn't go any other way. And others would say, no way will I spend that much money. Right? And that's about our own personal choices. So one of the things, too, that frequently drives our choices has to do with our sense of value and our sense of self-worth. So Brene Brown talks a lot about the hustle for worthiness. When we think that we have to do something to be okay. We have to be what somebody expects to be okay. The truth is, it's always an inside job. So for me, it's about conscious, awake, and aware choices. And one of the great things that I love to reference is Thomas Troward in the Edinburgh Lectures has a whole section about higher thoughts lift lower thoughts. Higher thoughts have more power than lower thoughts. And in it, he talks about the law of averages. And the law of averages is a fascinating thing for me because what it says is, if I'm not making conscious, awake, and aware choices, then I am just in the flow of the collective consciousness of the world. And that's driven by the law of averages. X number of people will get married, X number of people will get divorced, X number of people will get cancer, X percentage of the population will get rich, X percent of the population will go bankrupt. Whatever it may be, it's the law of averages. And that, what does he say? Let me find this. He says, in short, we may say the cosmic intelligence works by the law of averages, which allows a wide margin of accident and failure to the individual. And that's really true with the law of averages. It's like rolling the dice. The evolution which has brought us to this standpoint has worked by cosmic law of averages. It has been a process in which the individual has not taken conscious part. It goes on and it says that as we begin to make conscious, awake, and aware choices, as we have individual selection, there is an increasing power of controlling the conditions of our own survival. So that process of saying, I choose. I can choose whatever it is, but it's mine. It's only mine. So we are in the process of planning a trip to California. I'm going to take my husband, whose memory is beginning to fail at a faster rate, up to see his family in Northern California. So the dog has to come along. So I've gone through this whole process to fly, to package him and the dog, and to get through to the airport, through the airport with the dog. And the dog's ticket costs more than mine. The dog's ticket costs over $250. I was amazed. Yes. I last time I took him, I went, I know why you do this, because it's really a pain. I got to have the health certificate. That way people don't randomly bring their dog. But anyway, so all of these choices, to fly, to drive. Well, let's say, what if we drive? So I went on Google Maps, and it was a fabulous demonstration of conscious, awake, and aware choice. If you plug in, go from Phoenix to Santa Rosa, California, it gives you 2 routes. Takes you through Los Angeles, up I-5, and then through the hideousness of the East Bay. It's not a fun drive. And so I say, I think I might like to go on 395. It's gorgeous, takes you up through the mountains. You go by Mount Whitney, Mono Lake, all kinds of beautiful things. You end up by Lake Tahoe. It's a great trip. I could not make that Google map give me 395 until I went, take me to Bishop, which is right in the middle of 395. Then it went, bleep, unless I would drag it each time. And then I went, well, it could be snowing. And these are high mountains. Truckee, when you go back down, is where the Bonner Pass people got eaten, literally. And so maybe I shouldn't do that. Well, I'll take PCH and go up Highway 1, another beautiful route. Because if I'm driving, I might as well have something besides the Central Valley and the trucks. Again, Google Maps, I had to drag it, or I had to say, because even if I put in, Phoenix to Santa Rosa on Highway 1, wouldn't do it. I had to drag it over until I went Phoenix to Cambria. Okay, fine. Or Phoenix to Monterey. And even then, it didn't take me always on PCH. So it's about realizing that the universe has many choices, but our thought process has some habitual patterns. And Google chooses based on the algorithm of what's the most likely. What's the fastest? Most people want the fastest way. What's, the easiest, most direct way. I even tried, scenic routes between here and there. I spent a stupid amount of time Googling this, I can't tell you, like a stupid amount of time. And so it's about choices and realizing that I had to figure out a way to fool old Google to see the best way to get up to 395. Choices, conscious, awake, and aware choices. And it's interesting, so I love Greg Boyle, and in his last book, he talked about the fact that the homies changed his Siri voice to this little Irish woman. And that he talked about, the fact that she's constantly will be saying there's a hazard ahead, or there's road work ahead, or there's an accident ahead, but you're still on the fastest route. And he says, I know that I'm on the surest one. This path is certain to get me there, and that's comforting. And so the universe does have our own GPS, but we have, in terms of choices, I really believe the universe is a little better at just being able to go, take me down 395 to get to Santa Rosa. And it will. But it will also make the changes that you need. That's what the great thing about a GPS is, that it does that thing where turn left in 1,000 feet, but you don't have enough time to get into the left lane to turn left in 1,000 feet. So then it's going recalculating, and it will figure out a way to get you where you need to go, no matter what you do. And that, I always think that God is like the GPS of my life. No matter what I can screw up, no matter how many wrong turns I take, it will find a way to get me where I'm going. So Holmes says, there are going to be changes in our life from hour to hour and day to day, and we cannot escape them. It is the nature of the universe. Let's accept change, make the most of it, and capitalize on it. The action of the law never changes. The action of the law never changes, but the direction of the action is always up to us. And that's an important thing to remember. Life can become a glorious adventure increasingly filled with more of every good thing as we gradually or suddenly come to a change in our pattern of thinking so that it embraces more of those good things. Practical application of science and mind. But I really am looking now at this whole process of choice and say, how can I make different choices? How can I make different choices? If I look at, if I think about life and how it's unfolding and know that my choices have such a huge impact, what do I want to choose? How do I want to choose? That's really important to me. And to remember that there is always this divine flow underneath everything, whether I'm aware of it or not. So I told Clyde earlier today, I particularly like this jacket because it's a reminder for me that even when I don't see God, God is there. And the reason is, the best part of this jacket is here. Right? There's a gorgeous image of for those of you who can't see it, there's a gorgeous image of a woman in the back. I can't ever see it unless I'm either contorted and looking in a mirror or I see it on a hanger. But I know it's there. I know it's there. You know it's there if you happen to see me walking away. But that's not the point. It's the fact that I can't ever see it, but it does not interfere with my love of this jacket one iota. Because I know it's there and it creates a lovely look in my mind. It doesn't make any difference whether you like it, truthfully or not. It's that it makes me happy. And so that's a part of learning to have a new perspective about our choices. Does it matter what you think? Terry Cole Whitaker's first book, What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. One of the best books of all time. That's an important thing to remember. Because change is, it's the ever-present thing. And in the definition of changing, it's to undergo alteration, transformation, transition, or substitution. To make a radically different choice. And so I'm going to suggest to you that we have the opportunity to look at the choices we make from a radically different way. It's very easy to get caught up in good choice, bad choice, right choice, wrong choice. Even if you're stopping to assess, do I like the outcome or not? And I usually try to back it down to that, the least judgmental way I can find. But in actuality, what if all the choices are the right choice? What if all the choices are the right choice? What if it's just like that GPS that says, you should have turned left 1,000 feet ago, turn around, do a U-turn this way, turn left here, turn right there, whatever it is, it's going to get you to go back and closer to the destination you're going to go. But it's also about, can I be okay with me and my choices, regardless of which ones I make? Because that's a totally different question. It's much harder to do. To say, what if it's okay? What if there's nothing wrong? And Holmes in 365 Science of Mind, and one of the things I get a little frustrated with that particular, and a lot of his sort of compilations that people put together, they don't tell you where it's originally from. I wish they did, but they don't. But anyway, 365 Science of Mind. We do not change all the patterns of our thought in a moment. Rather, it takes place little by little until gradually the old thought pattern becomes transformed into new ones by some inner alchemy of the mind, the operation of which we do not see, but the manifestation of which we do experience. Our lives and experiences may well be likened to a river. If we stand on the bank of a river and watch it flow, we become aware that the river never changes, but its content is always new. By analogy, we might say that purposeful, dynamic quality of life within us never changes, but the content of our experience of living never remains the same. So what if I could just be that go with the flow idea that says, I've made a choice. Do I like it, its outcome? Not necessarily. But can I just love it? Danielle Laporte talks about something that always makes me shiver just a little because I have found it to be true. She says, nothing ever leaves us until we learn to love it. Not just tolerate it or accept it, things don't change until we love it. And she has one page in the book that just says, love it all, 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 like 10 or 15 times in big, huge font. Love it all. Nothing ever leaves us or changes until we love it. And that's us, right? It's one thing it's easier to see it on the outside. But if it's us, inside of us, what if there's as much God in me when I want to throw myself on the floor, pound my fists, kick my feet, scream until I'm red in the face, which I'd love to tell you I don't ever feel like, but that would be a lie. Or when I'm happy. What if they're the same? You know, we say it's all good and it's all God. It doesn't mean that the outcome is necessarily great, but there is as much God in those moments. There is as much God in those experiences as there in anything else. And I don't believe it's because God sent us a lesson. I'm not a big believer in God and lessons. I believe that God is just love. That's it. God just loves. And he's so busy, God is so busy loving that the universe has no time to worry about who does what, where, how, when, and why, and to judge it or anything. It just, God just loves. So in Greg Boyle's book, Cherished Belonging, he says these following things that he believes to be completely true. Everyone is unshakably good, no exceptions. For a man who runs the largest gang exit and prison reentry program on the planet, that's a pretty powerful statement. Everyone is unshakably good, no exceptions. And we belong to each other, no exceptions. And he talked about giving a talk one day, and he said, now, do I think all of our vexing and complex social dilemmas would disappear if we embraced these two notions? Yes, I do, he said. And he was startled because the room laughed. And when they settled down, he went, yes, I do. If we could believe that we were unshakably good, how we responded to choices that had outcomes that we didn't like would be very different than if we were dealing with the bad Sue, bad Sue that I have used for so long in my life. And so it's important to remember that everyone is unshakably good, includes me. Unshakably good. And I can make a twist in my mind that says, well, at our core, we're unshakably good, but some of this behavior stinks. Well, I can not like the behavior, but that has nothing to do with its goodness or my goodness. And that's a tough lesson to learn. So Boyle also says, I don't think I'm at death's door, but I find myself assessing things I believe in as I inch closer toward that door. I believe the following things. God is in the loving. God is inclusion. Demonizing is always untruth. We belong to each other. Separation is an illusion. And I love these next two. Tenderness is the highest form of spiritual maturity. Tenderness is the highest form of spiritual maturity. Think about how often you are less than tender with yourself. And we have this notion that says, if we do that, we would get lazy, we wouldn't do the right thing. That's not true. If we are unshakably good at our core, at our nature, to be tender with ourselves is really the only answer. And then he says, kindness is the only non-delusional response to everything. And that's from George Sanders, he quotes. But kindness is the only non-delusional response to everything. We're all unshakably good, and a community of cherished belonging is God's dream come true. So can I do that? Can I really believe that God only loves? Can I really believe that I am unshakably good? Can I really believe that no matter what, that I am lovable, that I am enough, that I don't have to beat myself up. I'm okay exactly the way I am. There's a song from a long time ago that we used to sing back in the AIDS days, and a group called Alliance, all but one of whom are no longer with us. And the lyrics were, I love myself the way I am, the last verse is, but still I want to grow. Change outside can only come when deep inside I know I'm beautiful. I'm capable of being the best me I can. I love myself just the way I am. We think that somehow that kicking our own butt will make us do better. And the truth is, that's usually not the case. We can muster to that for a little while, but it's usually not the case. So I have had a lot of discussions in my life about the concept of grace lately. That the notion that God just loves. God just loves. And grace, from a traditional religious perspective, it is the concept that God's favor or love are given, and it's frequently described as unmerited or undeserved, but the definition I like is it's a gift that can't be earned. God's love is a gift that can't be earned. As much as traditional religion paints God as a figure in the sky with a list, a good list and a bad list, like Santa, a naughty and a nice list. Yes. There is no scorecard. God just loves, and it loves freely. The universe loves freely. Holmes asked over and over and over and over, what do you believe about God today? With the notion that it should be different from yesterday, most likely. So in the glossary, he says, grace is the givingness of spirit to its creation and not a special law, but a specialized one. In other words, grace is, but we need to recognize it. We need to recognize that God is love, that we always have grace available to us, that there is no exception, that we are all unshakably good. We have to recognize it. Goes on to say, it is not something God imposed upon us, but it is the logical result of the correct acceptance of life and of a correct relationship to the Spirit. We are saved by grace to the extent that we believe in it, accept it, and seek to embody it. The law of good is a law of liberty and never one of limitation. Limitation is not a thing. Limitation is a thing, not an entity, but a belief. Freedom, however, is the divine reality. So being able to see that there's really nothing wrong is a fascinating concept. So there's a female Lutheran minister in Denver, and I love the name of her church. How she got through a Lutheran divinity school, I was raised a Missouri Synod Lutheran. It is a butt-kicking faith. Trust me on this. It's a butt-kicking faith. But her church is called House for Sinners and Saints. When I found out about that, I went, man, if I still lived in Denver, I don't know that I'd be going to Mile High. I'd be going to the House for Sinners and Saints. Her name is Nadia Boltz-Weber, and when she talks about forgiveness, because I think that forgiveness is something that we don't bestow on ourselves easily. So she says, we forgive not to make the perpetrator feel better. It's because the longer we stay attached to the harm, the more we absorb it and risk becoming like our enemy. Forgiveness actually says, I will never allow this to infect my heart. And forgiveness is a concept that a lot of people struggle with. But to look at it from that perspective, I will simply not allow this to infect my heart. It doesn't mean what the person did is right or wrong. Doesn't mean it's okay. Doesn't mean that it didn't hurt. None of those things. But am I willing to deal with not letting it affect my heart. So she has a little article. It's called, it's a quote, please don't yell at me. Forgive assholes, which tells you a lot about her as a minister. I really believe that when someone else does us harm, we're connected to that mistreatment like a chain. And she talks, it goes on for a while, but then about it's not an act of niceness, it's not being a doormat. It really, to me, is it's more badass than that. Maybe retaliation or holding on to anger about the harm that has been done to me doesn't actually combat evil. Maybe it feeds it, because in the end, if we're not careful, we can actually absorb the worst of our enemy on some level and even start to become them. So what forgiveness, rather than being a pansy way of being, actually is a way of wielding bolt cutters and snapping the chain that links us. It's like saying what you did was not okay. It was so not okay that I refuse to be connected to it anymore. And so for me, when I apply that to myself, it's this process of saying I can free myself from old suffering that holds me back. Not making that person okay, but realizing that I can snap the chain that keeps me suffering. I can snap the chain that makes me feel like I'm not okay, that it's not okay. And so that process of knowing that I don't have to earn anything makes it easier. I don't have to earn anything. If you come from my world, my family, what you produce is your value completely. To unwind that has been a big step. Can I be okay? So as my husband's health declines, can I be okay on those days when I do want to sit in the corner and cry? Can I be okay and love him anyway? When I want to sometimes throw things at the wall and say it's not fair. Fair is not in the mix. So it's about saying, can I really allow myself to see my choices, all of them, as okay? And then simply go about the process of saying, how do I want to live my life with outcomes from my choices, without that horrible sense of judgment? So in How to Change Your Life, Holmes says, when you feel intimately and deeply that nothing separates you from God, you feel a great sense of satisfaction, peace, strength, and freedom come over you that no one who has not chosen to ascend to a much higher spiritual consciousness could ever have. And that's true even if you have days or moments where you don't feel like you've ascended to a higher consciousness. Even when what I have frequently referred to with myself, when my hair is on fire. Right? Even when my hair is on fire. So it's to remember this theme quote. The power of choice with which we have been endowed is either our greatest blessing or our greatest curse. And the greatest curse has to do with when we judge ourselves for our choices. Can we just stop, step back, and say, what if I am absolutely okay, even if I have had my hair on fire today? If I have done something when my hair is on fire that is inappropriate, yes, I have to be accountable, because in this quote it talks about but we must accept the responsibility for our choices. So if I've made a choice with an outcome that is unpleasant for me or for you, owning that and saying, I'm sorry. Forgive yourself. Forgive somebody else, whatever it may be, but own the choice and not have it make you anything less than exactly who you are, a perfect child of the divine. So that's my message for today. Remember that you are always okay, regardless of the choices you make or don't make. And at any single solitary moment, you can make a new choice. Thank you. So let's take a moment and pray. So right here, right now, in the presence and the activity of that extraordinary spirit that is pure peace, pure love, pure joy, pure kindness and tenderness and compassion and wisdom and clarity. It is that unconditional, unshakable, unchangeable love that simply pours to us at all times. And even if it's like the design on the back of my jacket where I don't see it and I have forgotten it's there, it's always pouring out, simply awaiting my openness, my willingness to receive, my willingness to choose again, to see things from a new perspective. In any given moment, that is my choice. And with every one of those choices, then life begins to shift, change, lift, and move towards a higher thought, because higher thoughts continue to hold more power than lower thoughts. To look at all of my choices as absolutely lovable and holy in their own way, knowing that I can take accountability for my choices and then make a new one. And it's equally important to take accountability for the choices that have outcomes that you love, that you like, to know that those are repeatable choices, that no matter what, that we always, always, always have the blessings of the divine, have the grace that has the grace of that divine universal energy that has nothing to do with whether or not we have earned it, that we're good enough for it, that we should or shouldn't have it based on something we've done or not done. That the grace of God is always present. We simply have to stop, see it, and open to it. So as we move forward, we do so with this open heart, with an open mind that says, I accept the grace of God. I accept the love, the peace, the joy, the goodness, the kindness, the tenderness, regardless of what it looks like on the outside, regardless of how it feels on the inside, that it is always, always flowing to me and through me and functioning as me and dwelling in me. I simply need to remember. I simply need to look and acknowledge it. I simply need to believe that it's okay for me to say yes to the grace of that divine energy. So I give thanks for everyone here today who has taken the time to stop and to look and to open their hearts and minds to be able to hear about new perspectives and new choices, to be able to move forward with life in this place of absolute choice, to be able to declare, I decide. I decide. So I give thanks for each and every person here, even as we move forward, sometimes making choices we love and sometimes making choices we don't, that none of that impacts the lovability of who we are. So I give thanks. I release this time together out into the law, knowing that the universe indeed has begun to shift, move, lift, and change everything because it operates within the synchronicity of both love and law. So I release this time together knowing that the universe has indeed already said yes. And so it is. Thank you, everybody.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful,
Thank you, Bradford. We are grateful. So now is the time to celebrate the abundance of our lives and the abundance of our community. And so we want to remind you we have the drop boxes in the back of the room and going into Papke Hall and also in the bookstore. That's where we drop our tithes and our donations, and we appreciate all of the loving support of our community. So let's say our giving affirmation together. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Please rise for our last song.
Fantastic to be alive. So let's say our closing affirmation. Repeat after me. I choose happiness.
I choose happiness.
And I know I'm planting seeds of joy in my life.
And I know I'm planting seeds of joy in my life.
And so it is.
So it is.